Where's the crowd?
That's good. You convinced them it's a done deal now, so.
Well, that's too bad because there were some more things they need to know. Welcome to the Thursday, July 18th, 2019 regular meeting of the Granada Community Services District. If you received or have looked at the agenda, you note that there was a special meeting at supposed to be a special meeting this evening at 6:30, but due to lack of staff and support, that meeting was not held. So this regular meeting is now in session, and we'll start with the roll call.
President Maggie Clark.
Here.
Vice President Barbara Dye could not make it this evening. Director Jim Blanchard.
Here.
Director David Seaton.
Here.
Director Eric Sukumal.
Here.
And I'm the sole staff member tonight, Delia Comito, Assistant General Manager.
Yes, as Delia just mentioned, she's the only staff person here tonight, so at least one item will be tabled because we need the general manager for that. So we will start with general public participation as usual, and I would like to start off by announcing that Saturday, July 27th is the local drop-off recycling event that is done quarterly as a courtesy by Recology. This takes place on Obispo Road in El Granada, right across from Portola and the post office, and they will accept free acceptance of all kinds of things, from large appliances to yard waste to packing peanuts to aerosol cans, etc. And but it is only for people in the district, so you have to bring ID or proof of residency to participate. And they don't have the hours on this one, but it's normally 9 to 1, isn't it?
It's till noon, and it should be on the top there.
Oh, you're right. It's 8
8, sorry.
to noon.
They pushed it back.
And what date?
On the 27th.
July 27th.
Yes, on July 27th.
No, next weekend.
Next weekend.
Yeah, a week from.
And on a different entirely note, some of you may be aware that former GSD and GCSD board member Gail Erickson recently died, and a commemoration of her life will be held. I received this from her husband, Len Erickson, and I'll just read it. In memory of Gail Erickson, a celebration of life will be held on Sunday, July 21st, that's this weekend, at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the home of Nina and Charles Nelson at 115 Vallejo Street in El Granada. Light food and beverages will be served. Join and share the company of friends. And Gail's obituary was in this week's review, and I knew that she was involved in a lot of things, but I didn't know the half of it. She was, wherever she lived throughout her life, she was very active in parks, activities, getting trails approved, and generally being a good public citizen. So I want to thank her again. Do we have any other general public participation? Okay, hearing none, we will go to the action agenda. Item number 1, consideration of an ordinance amending the district ordinance code relating to skateboard facilities. Have a seat.
Would you like me to?
Sure.
So the district held a meeting last week on July 11th and adopted an ordinance which provides for the district to be able to accommodate the moving of a skateboard ramp that's currently on Caltrans property, and it will be able to be moved to the district property because we will be meeting our insurance requirements and also the laws that are required us to establish, which is the purpose of this item. And this would be the second reading. We are looking for board approval tonight without changes. And assuming that it is adopted this evening, it will be published in the Half Moon Bay Review next Wednesday, and the ordinance would take effect on August 23rd. so.
Right. Does anyone have any comments on the ordinance or where we're headed? All right, we have a public speaker request from Michelle Dragany on this item.
I'd just like to thank you guys so much for showing respect and responsiveness to our community, and really exciting times. So, August 24th, rebuild.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward to, with the ordinance, but I want to say to people who are interested in this, don't leave immediately afterwards. There are other things that you may want to know. Commonly, we would not actually read the entire ordinance out, so we need a motion to waive the second reading and to authorize publication of the ordinance. And while we're at it, we might as well authorize acquisition and posting of the signs.
Okay.
And anything else?
Not that I can think.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved, will that work?
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion. Any discussion?
So as far as the ordinance, is this also, going to the next step when we get into planning, demonstrating our commitment that there's gonna be a skate park as part of our next phase of the plan, or we're just saying there's an ordinance for the current ramp that we have right now to move it over? As
This
far as-
is, the ordinance addresses skateboard facilities. So we have, I believe the board has expressed interest in eventually having a skate park rather than just a ramp, but that's not addressed in this ordinance.
So I guess, would there be any issues with going to get the final, permits and going through that process with Burnham Park? Where does this skate park fit into it in terms of, before it was showing existing on Caltrans lot? So is this, as we're going through the planning, this is gonna be part of that permit process? Or this is gonna be left off there and, triggered as part of the, potentially the final?
As a skate park, aside from the skate ramp, it will be part of the regular process for Burnham Park if the board decides that's where it should go. So it will be permitting and all that, along with all the rest of the plans and permits we'll need to get.
Okay.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
okay, good enough.
Thank you. Also one of these next steps is I have been in contact with the Caltrans Public Information Officer for San Mateo County, and tomorrow morning I will again email him and apprise him of this step that we've just taken and that we are moving things along, and give him a better idea of what the schedule looks like. So I would like to suggest that at our next meeting, which will be before the ordinance takes effect, that we should have an agenda item to set a date for setting you folks free to move the ramp. We have not approved a location. We need to do that. And I wish Director Dye were here tonight, because a week ago she very generously said she would pay for moving of the ramp and refurbishing it. But it's not clear to me. Does anyone know? Is she talking about just taking the expense and paying for it as a donation to the district, or is she going to seek reimbursement? Because the board has authorized that the district would contribute money. Did you go to the?
I don't want to speak to her too much, but from my last discussion with her, my understanding is she was speaking of the board paying to refurbish it and resurface it to make it up to date and safer.
So she essentially would front the cost and then ask for reimbursement.
No, the district can go
The
ahead
district
and
would pay
cut
for it.
the check for whatever expenses there are.
All right.
Whether they need to be paid up front or, you know, the back end, we can work it out with the people.
She might have said it inartfully, but I
Yeah.
think she was just saying the district has agreed to pay for it.
Okay, good. That was my previous understanding, but it sounded, when I watched that meeting, that she said, I'll pay for it.
And we had made a motion a while back, too, when we showed support, that we'd contribute
Right.
financial.
Right. So, go ahead.
I think the thing that she was referencing is when she went to look at it, she was concerned that the masonite surface is chipped and cracked or lifted in some places, so she was concerned about the safety. So she had offered to have what the board is going to pay for, resurface it with something that is maybe better, more hardy, lasts longer.
Right.
And improves it a little bit.
Right. All right. It's been made clear to me that the staging community here is not a formally organized group. So whoever wants to take the lead on this, this is a government agency. We can't just pass out money without justification and receipts. So to get reimbursed, Barbara or the district are going to need actual receipts for everything that's purchased and an identification of what they're used for. Okay? So I don't know who among you will take lead on that, but that's how it has to work.
Can I just make a suggestion? I'm
Sure.
Steve Hawk. What if at the next board meeting, since it's going to be before the move, we were to come to you with a proposed budget and timeline? And I think the budget's not going to be exact because it's not going to be until we actually get in there and move the thing that we're going to see how much work needs to be done because there could be some rot underneath. And at that point, I think it's probably too early at this stage to talk about an actual dollar amount. But you might just want to say, okay, we'll spend up to X. And then if we find it goes over, I'm sure we could find the funds through a lot of locals to cover whatever difference there is. But it might just be helpful to kind of zero in on a number that you guys are willing to spend. And then we kind of know what we're working with. But does that sound like a plan? Or?
Yes, it'd be excellent to have an estimated budget, but I don't think, well, we already have talked about, I don't think a specific amount, but did we ever put a limit on it, or? I've heard numbers from $3,000 to $6,000. So I think we could put that on the agenda for the next month, and with your estimated, we can authorize a specific amount with a cushion above whatever your estimate is.
Great. Okay. That sounds like a good plan. And we could have some discussions before the meeting even with the staff and whoever else wants to be involved. Because if it turns out it's looking more like it's 15,000, that's a different conversation, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Actually, the general manager is authorized to issue expenses up to $20,000. So you could just set a limit and say, leave it to the discretion of the general manager, and if it needs to come back to the board.
All
Because
right.
we're talking a fairly.
But I personally would like to know if it's 3,000 or
3,000.
15,000.
Can you submit the budget to us, staff, relatively soon?
By when? When would we need it by in order to get it on the next agenda?
Well, we have a few weeks, so.
So
3 weeks.
3 weeks from today, they could
Yeah.
submit
Yeah, the
something?
sooner the better.
Okay.
The last ramp total for everything was $8,000 without labor. And I'm assuming we're going to be able to have volunteer labor on this thing. So did that include skate light?
Yes.
Okay, so skate light is the surface that's actually like a step above masonite, the weatherproof, and that's often the most expensive part for a ramp like this. And that it needs to be completely replaced on that ramp. So 8 to 10. If that's it, that's if we start from scratch, but I don't think we're going to have to. So
Okay, that sounds
I
reasonable.
don't feel like I'm qualified to even throw out a number right now.
Yeah, why don't you, 3 weeks, and then we'll have
Okay.
something, and we can confirm
That's good
that.
to know. So we know the clock's ticking. We have some, we know the guys who built it. They're really good at that kind of stuff, so there's a lot of contractors involved.
How long do you think you'll need to actually do the work?
I defer to my,
Just approximately, just curious.
Tim, you want to go?
The community built that thing in 2 days, but we did construct it at a different location and brought it on a stake bed truck. So, being that it's just moving, yards away, I think we can get away with a weekend, get it done.
Heard.
So if we authorize it at a Thursday meeting, maybe you're skating on Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great, great.
I'm not. That guy will.
There you go.
Hi, Fran Pollard, El Granada. I'm not clear when it's going to be moved, and are you going to make a decision where it can be moved to, or?
Yeah.
We have to make a formal decision. It's not on the agenda tonight, so we'll have to do that next month.
Okay,
So
so it's not going to be moved before that?
No, to approve a location. No, the ordinance will not be in effect until after our meeting, which is the 15th of August. And Julia just said that 23rd of August or so is when the ordinance will take effect.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
On that issue, do you think there will be some kind of a formal process to have people go out and talk about where it might be placed? Or do you imagine that just happening the night of that meeting?
Well, it will have to be ratified
Right, so
at
there'll have to be
a
some research
meeting,
in
so,
advance.
but I would be interested in meeting personally with anyone who'd like to go out and discuss location. And Delia, I think, would be available
I
for
can
that.
do that.
Sure,
as
because
well.
obviously we have some interested parties, so it'd be good to get probably everyone there and come to some kind of consensus in
There
the
has
field.
been some concerns mentioned by residents, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't want that to suddenly become an obstacle the night of.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that, I believe, winds this item down, and thank you all.
Is that what you want us to stay for?
That was the information
Yeah.
about, like receipts are important.
By the way, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, because we are going to have committee report about parks, I'm going to reorder the agenda as soon as I find my next page to it. Item 10 is committee reports. We'll do item 10 A with a committee report on parks, I believe, Parks and Rec. And then I think later we can do part B, which is, I'll have another committee report. So, who's up?
Nancy Marsh, Chair of Parks Committee, which generates not nearly as much interest as the skate park. I just wanted to give you an update. We haven't met since April. Our next meeting is August 6th. And so I wanted to just give you a quick update on my glasses on, how we're doing with the summer recreation plans. The spring newsletter, of course, went out. I think our experience so far is the walks are getting quite a lot of interest, and we're having a great time actually with Half Moon Bay Review, who are writing articles for us and putting our things on their calendar. We didn't get any uptake for the family dog training. I think the two ladies who were doing it, it's the first time they've done that. I think they priced it a little high, so we'll talk about that with them for next year.
Keep talking, Nancy, that
You're gonna need to open the door.
Brown Act, that door has to stay open.
Oh. 'Cause, uh, uh, you can need to open the door. Oh. Uh, 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 probably for ventilation as well. We offered it, we had a mix of 15 free and fee-based programs, and we're passing through for 3 additional programs, the skate camp, HEAL project, and movies at the park. So far, we've canceled 3 programs, 2 for lack of registration, which were the surf camp and dog training. One that did have a few registrations, but the process for getting the background checks and fingerprints and being able to receive them is a long process, and we didn't have it in time to run that program, so unfortunately we had to cancel that one. We haven't got any direct registrations for the yacht club sailing camp, but they also are taking registrations directly for the same camp, so it's not a cancellation. We're just not sending them any additional registrations. The El Granada History Walk, which was promoted in Half Moon Bay Review, had more than 20 people who came. In fact, had so many people, it was a little bit hard to keep them corralled and for everybody to hear all at the same time. The Quarry Park, history of Quarry Park in our small town that Fran hosted. I think we had about 12 or so people that came and heard about that history, and I think generally want to hear more. And this Saturday at 10 o'clock, Len Erickson is actually taking Gail's place to host a walk on the history of the Coastal Trail, meeting here by the Coronado stoplight at the picnic tables there on the trail. And he'll lead that history walk.
What time's that?
That's at 10 o'clock, 10 to 11:30 Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
The last one that is the educational walk has, I think, more than 15 registrations. Kirk Lombard, the sea forager, is doing a walk on shoreline coastal clams and fish. That has lots of folks. So we're getting, it seems the free programs and the ones that are kind of hyper-local are getting a lot of interest. Oh, we had 5 or 6 people for the Rosen movement, that was done here with music, the moving and stretching. And we had 8 people for the CPR class that Michelle delivered, which was a paid program for $95. So we did manage to sell some of those. Half Moon Bay Review ran an article yesterday about this week's Coastal Trail Walk. They have also contacted us to ask about the walk. That was the other one I meant to mention. Pat organized a Spanish language hike in Rancho Corral de Tierra, which is on the 27th. And I've been promoting it in various places, the Catholic Church and various other places around town, but the Half Moon Bay wants to run an article on that, which would be great. And one more, I can't remember the other one, but they now seem to have my number and email address, so when they hear about something, they're calling, and they're putting the rest of our walks on their calendar in the paper each week. So going well. At our meeting on the 6th, one of our significant agenda items is to sit back and learn what we've learned so far about recreation, and to inform next year. Our agenda, and I just wanted to do this quickly, just in case there's anything that you want to add to it. We're going to talk about summer recreation successes, challenges, and learnings. I think Barbara has already updated the board on the meeting with the principal at El Granada School about whether or not to invest in improving their facilities. The outcome was they hope to renovate the entire school, so not in the near future was the answer. Update on the Quarry Park Master Plan. I have heard a rumor that it might be on the Mid-Coast Community Council agenda next week, an update on the Quarry Park Master Plan. I will go in case it is on their agenda, and then we'll update the pack on that. The board had asked us last year to work on how to improve and get more community input for the activities that we're doing and broaden the community input. When we discussed that, other than the meetings, the kinds of meetings we've been having and the kind of meeting we have coming up, the other thing that Parks did, and it's been 4 years now, was to do a broad community survey where a survey was mailed out to everybody's homes. We actually got more than 600 responses to that survey. I think for 95% confidence levels, we only needed about 350. So that's the thing that we'd like to do again. I won't belabor it too much, but we want to bring a proposal to the next board meeting on August 15th for a community survey that would cover summer recreation for 2020, just a general interest survey. The same list of amenities that we're going to query at the next Burnham meeting so that we get more Burnham input from a broader range of the community. And it would be timed to kind of go out at the same time as invitations to the next Burnham meeting. But hopefully get, 500 or 600 vectors of input into that. So we'll bring you a proposal and a draft survey at your next meeting, if it can make the agenda.
Excellent.
Okay, that's all. I
Did you
think-
want to mention that Claudia has been doing some of the work? for them?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much for Claudia and bringing her on. She is going to attend our next meeting and, but has supported our first sub-team meeting on the survey. And I wanted to mention Claudia, and I want to mention Genevieve, who's also been doing a lot of the promotion work for the summer
Yeah,
programs.
she's been doing it until Claudia got trained, and now it's been kind of, the torch has been handed over to Claudia. So it's great because it frees up staff to get more caught up on stuff piling up on
Yeah.
her end, so.
Yeah, definitely appreciate having Claudia on board.
Thank you.
I will cover anything I forgot.
Nancy did a great job, so very quickly, just to update you, on July 27th, we have a first-time Spanish, a program in Spanish only. That is the guided hike at Rancho Corral del Tierra. Because we're not asking people to re-register because of fears of ice and other things. And so I can't say today how many we're going to have, but we could have 20 or 40 people with all the interest that we've had so far. It's being led by the National Park Service, and they're bilingual, and so it will be both in Spanish and English, whatever the preference of the participant. So I think that is hopefully it's indicative of the interest level in that sub-community in our district. The other unique group that we're trying to serve, reaching out specifically, is the disabled youth. And I'm working with the Granada Elementary School and the teacher who's a special needs teacher there, and she is going to be announcing it. We've scheduled it for September, so it'll be after school starts, and she anticipates that most of her parents and kids will be attending. It's set up as a family event. We're collaborating with BORP, that's Bay Area Outdoor Recreation Program Outreach in Berkeley. They're providing the cycles, the adaptive cycles for the event, and I'm providing the transportation for the cycles. So it's a real collaborative effort between the district, or the school district, and PAC members. But that's another example of how we might be able to find these underserved portions of our community and really provide something specifically geared towards their needs rather than a generic program. So just want to let you know.
I think
That's
those
a
are
good idea.
both just great, wonderful. Thank you for whoever made those contacts and set that up. And, yeah, thanks.
What
Pat.
age range is that, as far as the age range? Do you have a suggested age range for that?
Age range
Yeah.
on the adaptive, we're gearing it towards the elementary school.
Elementary,
age.
okay.
Mhm.
And Pat, do you know where they are starting and ending the Corral de Tierra walk?
It's at Coral Reef, the end of Coral Reef, so if you just go straight
Yeah, that trailhead.
east of Coral Reef, there's a parking area there that would be able to accommodate cars without getting in front of
And what time does that
neighbors'
start at?
houses. July 27th.
At what time?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock?
Saturday.
It's in the summer guide at granada.ca.gov/parks.
Okay.
So is that at the top of the hill? At the top of the hill?
Yes, the end of the road, yeah.
Perfect, sounds good.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, now we'll revert to some really boring things. Item number 2, public hearing, consideration of a resolution adopting the
Excuse me,
sewers.
Matthew? Did you want to do your committee report? Or were you going to do a verbals committee report? You just first.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
well,
Wanted to mention because that was committee report.
I think we should go back to that committee report. Item 2, public hearing, consideration of a resolution adopting sewer service charge and delinquent garbage account reports and authorizing the collection of said charges on the 2019-2020 fiscal year San Mateo County tax roll. And with that announcement, I am opening the hearing for any public comment on this issue. Seeing none, I am closing the public hearing for comment on this issue, and we will now hear from staff.
Yes.
It looks like.
Well, I prepared the report for the 2019-2020 county tax roll. It includes the sewer service charges and the delinquent garbage accounts that will be put on those parcels and applied to the tax roll. I prepared the report as I do usually each year. Our flat rate fee for single-family residents went up from $460 to $520 this year. And although I'd like to mention that for commercial users, we've had a somewhat drop in water usage. However, there has been an increase in revenue because of the charge increase. So I think I mentioned that in my memo here. There's approximately $190,000 increase in the revenue from last year to this year. We had, I believe, 6 or 7 new hookups. They were all single-family dwellings. I did do some adjustments on some of the multiple family dwellings that we had some issues on. One of the biggest problems and time-consuming parts I have in preparing this report is that we do not charge a flat rate on commercial businesses like we do on homes. We actually charge commercial businesses by the water usage volume, and the way I get the information from the contractor that provides it for CCWD, the Coast-Side County Water District, they sometimes have different addresses, different APNs, different codes. They might have someone, like for instance, in Princeton, there are some houses. They might have one listed as a house, I have it listed as a business, or vice versa. So there is a little bit of work involved. But basically, if you look a few pages into the report, you'll see the beginning of the commercial accounts listing. And essentially, the list is pretty much remains the same. I have blocked out the names this year to be in accordance with the Patriot Act. We don't provide individual names, and on some of our business accounts, we have it by the owner's name, so I've blocked those out. I've only left the business names viewable. But the column that says water CCFs is the one that is essentially blank, and I basically enter those numbers in from what I get from Coast-Side County Water District. This is a volume of water in what we call CCFs, which is 100 cubic feet of water. And that's how we determine the calculation. Anybody who uses a small amount of water, they're going to still be charged the minimum of the $520, which is the flat fee for residential. Anybody using a higher volume will be charged at the rate based upon the type of business that they are. Let's see here, what else is there?
Delia, what's the significance of that some of the commercial accounts are in gray?
I'm blocking out the name is all. Is if there's an individual person's name on the account as opposed to a business name, I've blocked it out because we're not allowed to provide names and addresses together since.
There's no readable.
Oh. So I was just trying to protect the privacy of these people.
Thank you.
So let's see. I did expand the report a little bit this year by actually providing more of the detail on our large commercial accounts, which are only a handful. We have the San Mateo County Harbor District, which is our largest customer. They have individual meters on the businesses out there by the pier, and they read those meters on a monthly basis. They provide them to us, and then I take them and fit it into the period that we use to put on the tax roll, which is basically April, it's April 1st through March each year. And you'll see that I have it broken down by business, the water usage, and then I have it on the consolidated report, which is where we have $1 amount that goes on the tax roll because we only have one property APN to apply it to. So we don't bill the businesses. We bill the property on the tax roll, and then we provide the breakdown for the individual businesses. And I believe the Harbor District goes back and bills the businesses, so. I've given them this in the report, whereas before it has not been provided in the report. The next large customer we have is the Point Pillar Project Development, which is the Oceano Hotel. We have to break them out because the different businesses are charged at a different rate. For instance, restaurants are charged at a higher rate because of the type of water that goes into the sewer system. Is harder on the treatment plant, and therefore they pay more than the hotel would or the other businesses there. And then we have Rocket Farms, which was previously Nurserman's Exchange, and they basically provide us with their readings for the water that actually goes into the system. They have a lot of water usage that goes for the agriculture and therefore does not go into the system. So that is not a part of what they pay for. We have an agreement with them, and so they provide the meter reads for the actual water usage that does go into the system. And again, I provided the breakdown this year of theirs is broken down by department. They have their maintenance, their home, Department 1 and 2 office, and so forth. So I provided the reads for that as well. I think that's it for the large groups. And then the Recology of the Coast, the delinquent garbage accounts. These are the people who have not paid their garbage bills, and Recology certifies the amounts and provides them to us, and we in turn apply a 10% additional charge for the work of putting it on the tax roll, and is collected via the property tax. So unless anybody has any questions, we're looking for approval, and it will go to the county tomorrow. I would like to mention that we did have one slight adjustment. There was one property that was duplicated, so the total dollar amount is reduced by $520.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept the sewer service charge and delinquent garbage account report and authorize the collection of said charges on the tax rolls.
And approve the resolution.
And approve the resolution. Right.
I so move. Second?
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right. Item 4 is going to be tabled for this meeting because our general manager is not here.
Do we skip?
Whoop, I skipped 3, yes. Sorry. Consideration of assessment district administrative budget and cost recovery levy for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Just as we put the sewer service charges on the tax roll, we also, the district had formed an assessment district back in 1996, and we issued bonds were issued in order for the district to pay for its portion of the treatment plant expansion. And the people who actually pay for those costs are the property owners who were primarily going to be benefiting from the expansion, which were vacant, mostly vacant lots, and some larger lots that may have had development but could put more development on it. So the first the bonds themselves, the district annually pays bond principal and interest. And on top of that, we have expenses that are associated with the assessment district, and that basically is placed on the tax roll and applied to the parcels that are within the assessment district and will benefit, hopefully, at some point on that. So what we have here is the budget and what we call a cost recovery sheet. It outlines the bond principal and interest. Normally, I do not provide the debt service, and the debt service consists of the principal and the interest payments that we pay on the bonds. I've gone ahead and included it this year. It's the last page from US Bank. And so the debt service, or the biggest portion of what's going on the tax roll, are those large payments that we make on March 2nd, 2020, and then also September 2nd of 2020. One is simply interest, the other one in September of next year is actually principal and interest. So that total is the debt service line on the top of the cost recovery budget, as you see there, for $455,000 in principal and $88,506 of bond interest. And this is a 25-year bond, so we're kind of getting to the very end. The first tax roll was on 1998-99 fiscal year, and I think we have about 3 years left to go. So those bonds will be paid off very shortly. Now, the one thing that I do have to calculate for this is the number for the agency administrative costs. Bond law allows the district to recoup some of the overhead expenses that are that can be attributed to the assessment district. We try to do that on a fair basis by how much time staff spends on assessment district related work. And so for the past several years, we've estimated that to be about 10%. And the second page provided here is that overhead calculation. The specific costs are outlined, the estimated amounts. Actually, what we have are actual spent last year for those costs, and then the budget that we estimated for this year of those costs. And they were so close in number that I just kind of rounded it in the middle, and the district will be reimbursed $2,100 a month for overhead. That includes copier fees, compensation, office lease, office maintenance and repairs, office supplies, utilities, and our computer costs. So it's a little bit less than last year. And other than that, the other fees that we collect are the agents' fees, which are a set amount, we know what those are, and our assessment district administrator, which we pretty much, we estimate they're pretty standard every year. They can't go over $7,500, and then we've got accounting fees and legal fees. If you recall, about 3 months ago, we approved a bond counsel contract, and I have gone ahead and included anticipated expenses for, was it on here?
No.
Oh, they took it off. We will have some legal fees this year, and that will be paid for by the assessment district. It will not be paid for by district. So we may need to make a revision here, but I would like to go ahead and ask for approval on this, and we'll submit it to our assessment district administrator. They will make whatever final adjustments or corrections they need and come up with a final total for the tax roll. And they actually prepare it. The deadline for the tax roll submission is July 31st, and the final to have all corrections in is August 10th. So this is the last meeting we have to approve these tax rolls for county roll.
Could you please provide some language for a motion?
I would need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2019-2020 annual assessment and cost recovery for the district's assessment district.
Do we have a motion?
Subject to those changes, you said?
Subject to some minor changes, yeah. I'm not sure exactly what they'll be yet. but basically, we're approving the basic, which is the bond principal and the agency administrative costs. The other fees are pretty standard. They are what they are.
Yes. Carrie, do you say this so moved for us?
Yes, so moved.
Make
I'll
it
second.
easier. Thank you.
Okay, and we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. My only comment is I'm glad to have this extra information
Okay.
that we haven't
Yes.
seen before,
Good.
and I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so you know, the cost per ERU last year was just under $400 a year, and it will be considerably less this year, so they're probably looking at about $350, so it's a fairly small assessment.
Yeah. Okay, we will then return to skipping over item 4, because we don't have the information we need. And we will go to item 5, consideration of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side Report. And Jim, it's you.
It's just very short. We had a meeting on June 24th, and the major action affecting us in Granada was that we had a consideration for the construction contract for the wet weather facility expansion, and we had an option to accept the bids, but they were way over, they were more than 30,000 over what we had budgeted for. And we weren't able to, so we weren't actually 300,000 over what we had budgeted for. So we had rejected the bids. And then we'll work with the state to get some leniency on the due dates for.
Actually, I believe Sam's estimate was 600,000, and the
right.
low bid was over 1.2 million.
The facility itself, like $1 million, it's just a big dollar. Just like this, just the walls of the facility itself are very expensive, just the installation.
Pardon?
It was like, I think it was 600. Was it 600? I forget.
It was less than 600. I always have a hard time separating out the land cost from the construction cost. But I don't think it was 600,000. I don't think it was that high. When did we put that in? That I don't remember.
Oh, wow.
6 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, our construction costs have gone through the roof in the Bay Area.
Heavy civil construction is in high demand right now.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think that the people who bid on this, go all the way over to Half Moon Bay. That's practically Siberia. We've got a ton of work we can do, and so if they'll pay us enough, we'll do it. But
So they rejected all the bids?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yep.
And they're gonna go out to bid again?
Yes.
yeah, so this board will have to consider this too, because we.
Changes our budget.
Yeah, we gulped hard and said, yes, well, we have to pay our share, but our shares are going to double, it looks like. So, okay, is that it,
Yes.
Jim? Yeah,
Very quick.
that was the important thing. Okay. Now we come to the consent agenda, which is item 6, approve the June 20th, 2019 meeting minutes. Item 7, approve the July 2019 warrants. Item number 8, approve June 2019 financial statements. And item 9, approve assessment district distribution number 1-19/20. And this is consent. Does anyone have anything to discuss about consent? No. Okay. I'll call the question. Do we approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Who made the motion then? I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess I did.
Matt did. I can second that
Okay.
if needed.
Clark.
Oh, yeah, it's just rushing too much. Okay. Now we're going back to item 10 in the committee reports. I apologize because I wrote this memo summarizing our ad hoc committee meeting with Director Sukumel and I with the Harbor District, talking about the potential for cooperation on development of the post office lot, and then it completely slipped my brain to actually provide that memo in time, so you just got it tonight. So I will summarize this with Eric's input if he has any. We met on the 26th of June with the Harbor Commissioner Sabrina Brennan and Ed Lorenas, and their interim general manager John Moran. We learned that the Harbor District has an architect, and they brought three very rough concept sketches from their feasibility study for the property. One showing the building as a long rectangle fronting onto Portola with parking to the west. The next with the building next to the post office building and parking along both Portola and Obispo. And the third with building at the corner of those streets and parking in an L shape on two sides. And near the end of the meeting, we advised that they would get a lot of negative public feedback for any plan that built along Portola or on the corner, because it would be so view blocking. And I think they actually understood that before the drawings were done. The San Mateo County standard for public buildings is one parking place for every 200 square feet of building. So all the drawings showed more or less about 2/3 of the property as parking spaces, that's pretty restricting. The Harbor District is giving, quote, high priority to having a good public meeting room in the new building. They feel that both their public meeting room and ours are inadequate at times. And they want to build a 2- or 3-story building depending on what is allowed and if the districts work together. They realize variances may be necessary and that the two districts working together would be more persuasive to San Mateo County and the Coastal Commission. The Harbor District says they need about 3,000 square feet. I believe GCSD currently has about 2,200 to 2,400?
About 1,500, I
About
thought.
1,500.
Yeah.
All right, so we'd like to have 2,000, if we don't have to have a meeting room?
We need for additional staff
Yes.
and also storage. We have no storage here, so yeah, it would be nice to have at least,
Yeah.
I'd say at least 500, yeah, or more.
Okay, yeah.
A little more, not too much, but.
In a pre-planning meeting with San Mateo County planning, the Harbor District was told up to a 6,600 square foot building would be allowable with variances, but up to, but they feel that a 4,600 square foot building is more for sure would be approved. Their idea for a public meeting room is it would be made available for other public agencies as well as private groups, as ours is now, and size and amenities for the public meeting room are to be discussed.
Actually, we do not allow private groups, only nonprofit and public agencies to use our meeting room.
Are all nonprofits necessarily public?
They have, one of the requirements is that the meetings are, that of any group that uses this meeting space is that the meeting is open to the public.
Okay,
They're not closed door meetings.
right, okay. Harbor District is hopeful that parking requirements may be reduced under a variance. They had actually brought this up. If GCSD can get a plan together for the ad hoc parking lot across Obispo, maybe San Mateo County would consider that close enough that less parking would be needed on site at that parking post office lot. They have talked with Supervisor Horsley's office, who has indicated there could be county money available to help cover a public meeting room or other public benefits that if we Harbor District or the two districts could get together and decide what to do.
Can we get copies of the plans that they've provided?
We
Where
were,
do you think
we
we
were
could-
given copies.
Oh,
so
okay, I'd
we
like
can-
to see them.
They were really just
They're-
a rectangle of the
Oh,
property
oh.
Yeah,
with
they're-
with
They're
They're-
real
squares
detailed.
labeled.
Yeah,
you know.
they've gone through, feasibility level planning. They don't have drawings.
Okay.
Yeah, they're sketches, I would call them. The Harbor District doesn't expect to use the same architect or engineer for the building as they did for the sketches. If the districts cooperate on anything having to do with the actual layout or building, we'll have to agree on the architect. The Harbor District is willing to consider a wide range of cooperation opportunities, from co-ownership to GCSD leasing part of the building to input on putting parking amenities on the property, park amenities, not parking, amenities on the property, and being respectful of the view corridor. The Harbor District would like to cooperate in planning, design, and permitting, which would require a legal agreement between the districts. And unfortunately, neither district can use Whitwer and Parkin for this because they're lawyers for both districts and they couldn't possibly represent both to their best advantage. Interim General Manager Moran will draft a design and planning request for proposals to include public outreach and permitting work, which could be revised if the districts cooperate with that. And I think implicit in that was that we got to see it before they send it out.
Yeah, that was what
Yeah.
they implied at least.
Yeah. Finally, they would like to have their signs removed from the Burnham Park ad hoc parking lot, which we're planning to do.
Yeah, the signs, in fact, I took pictures of them. It just references their code for the no dumping. It doesn't say San Mateo County Harbor District. It just references, SMCHD code, da-da-da-da, whatever. So it's not really clearly, states their agency name, but it is their sign.
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah.
figure out how to get them off the posts and put ours on there. I mean, we'll do that, definitely.
And finally, the two districts will have another meeting after what would be our next two district meetings, which are, theirs was yesterday and ours is today. However, I didn't have the brains to put this into a real agenda action item for discussion, so we can't really discuss or do anything about what level of cooperation we may be willing to discuss with the district.
Was there any disagreements or areas that you guys felt like needed clarifications?
No, it was really open because they really have no plans.
It's pretty early in the process, so there's
Yeah.
not really any room for
And,
disagreement.
but I would comment that is, they're being smart about it. They've gone to the county first with very preliminary discussions about what they could and could not do there, what's likely to fly. And that's a good model that we need to follow for Burnham Park. Before we have K&K do actual drawings or anything like that, we need to go discuss this stuff with the county. So that's my committee report.
Did it seem like there was definitely enough there where we wouldn't need to pursue our own, in terms of the level of cooperation and meeting our needs and stuff? Definitely seems like on the surface that they're willing to kind of meet all the things we'd be looking for in terms of.
They didn't say that, but they are clearly willing to negotiate, so they need to get their ideas more solidified, as do we, so we can sit down and say, this is what we need minimum, this is what we'd like, and they'll do the same thing, and then we'll have a basis for negotiation.
Did you want this to be a future than agenda item? It could be possibly under closed session, I don't know, but I can mention it to our general manager and
Yes.
also okay, so for August.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. Okay, do we have any other committees, conferences, or seminar reports? And we already had, actually, we did item 11, report on Parks Advisory Committee.
Yes, that's.
So we are now, we don't have an attorney here, so the attorney's report, is off. We don't have a general manager here, so that's off. Administrative staff reports.
I just want to mention we've started the new fiscal year, so I basically eliminated all of the prior applications, permits issued, sewer hookups, and repairs that we had been, accumulating over the last year. So we started new, and we started out the year with 3 permits already, so there's really not much more to report, except for I do have a special note down at the bottom you might want to take note of. The encampment was vacated on the 2nd of July. I was a little disappointed in that it's not as clean as I expected. There was still little bits of trash around, and I think it needs some further attention and possibly some restoration. I was going to just try and maybe informally have a conversation with Kellex Nelson over at the RCD to see if maybe there's some type of restoration, since it is a riparian area, that she might be able to suggest that would also deter people from moving back in. Because the way it is right now, there's a nice little round open spot for, that
Right.
people, I'm afraid, will go back in there, and it's gonna take some vigilant, going out there and checking on a regular basis to make sure it's not happening again. And, possibly the RCD can help us come up with some solutions that might help deter people from going in, and also to restore, the habitat out there. So that would be something I could put before the board if I get a chance to talk to Kelly. I haven't been able to touch base with her yet. We've been missing each other.
And the county sheriff's office participated in the process. Is there any?
Yeah, I spent a considerable amount of time talking to you basically asked for, I forget what it's called, you call their dispatch number and they send somebody out for it's an assistance, I forget what they called it, but yeah, they were out there the whole time.
Is there any mention of the sheriffs possibly dropping by periodically?
I don't think so. The problem is that you can't see them in there, and they're usually going in there at night. So, I don't think they're gonna make that effort.
If someone were to call up tomorrow and say, oh, somebody moved back on that spot,
They would probably be willing to go in and enforce the removal, because they had not been considered living there. If we can catch them before they're established, I think that we will have their cooperation to go out and remove them, or ask them to move immediately, so. We did have outreach out there as well, so twice, and so they were provided, information on services for housing, and they were actually familiar with one of the persons that was out there, and said that he was resistant to services, so he just moved along, I guess. But they had their bags packed and right by the side of the road when I got down there at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, so they're gone. But it looks like people have been living there for a while, so I think there definitely needs to be some type of restoration would be helpful.
yeah, and was a dumpster taken out before?
Yeah, Recology was nice enough to provide the dumpster free of charge. It was only there for that morning, and they took it away immediately after it was filled. And we also removed the Caltrans encampment. That had been actually, we didn't have to post a notice there because it had been abandoned, but they removed the group that we hired to do the work. They removed that garbage as well.
Approximately how much did this whole process cost?
I haven't gotten an invoice yet, but I'm thinking it's probably gonna be around $3,000 roughly. We'll see you next month, probably. I expect their bill anytime, so.
So if we stay on top of it, though, sheriffs can then go out and move the people out without making a big legal struggle out of it.
I hope so.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Delia.
Okay,
We have no engineers report, so the last item is future agenda items, and I think we've added how many today?
well, some have
Not
come off,
before?
some have gone on. Yeah, I'll go ahead and update the list. Well, actually, some of the stuff you mentioned tonight will probably be on the next agenda, so it may not actually be on the list, but otherwise, I'll put it on here. Do you think of anything else on here?
No, but we had to table the personnel manual.
Yeah, that will go on.
We had the delinquent garbage reports, that's done, but then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items already, plus what was added tonight for
As Nancy mentioned, PAC will have a future item for the survey as well.
Right, so it's going to be a killer agenda in August. Yeah, I don't want to add anything to it.
And the connection fee study may not be prepared in time.
I didn't count that one.
Okay.
But these discuss the Burnham Park plan. That could take,
And
will
the
take a
audited
while.
financial statements will definitely be on. Sam has not finished their audit yet. We can no longer wait. We're way beyond the due date, so we're gonna go ahead and issue the audit. Any-
Well, and then,
Jim, do you know of any update on their audit? What's going on over there? Have you
No, I
heard?
don't, no, I don't. I've not been contacted for anyone.
and then there will be the skate ramp is, will take some
Right, the
discussion.
location. Okay, thanks for mentioning that location. And what else did you, the budget.
Yeah, and,
For the ramp. Okay, sounds good.
May I suggest we push the lateral policy discussion back until September?
Oh, absolutely.
Unless it's
Yeah, I don't
somebody
know.
on the board considers it to be a critical item.
Yeah. Definitely. I have to gather the information for that, and I just haven't been able to catch my breath. By the way, I'll be going out of town on the 24th, which is next Wednesday, and I will be out through Monday. I won't be back in the office until Tuesday, the 30th. Yes. And Genevieve will be holding down the
Oh,
fort.
On the skate ramp, we also have to set a date at the next meeting when the public will be authorized to move the ramp.
Okay. Well, I would think that they can do it. The thing is, when they move that ramp, I don't think it's gonna be usable until they put it back together.
Right.
So I don't know, see any reason why they couldn't move it before the August 23rd, as long as it's not ready to, usable until the 23rd.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and order the signs. Those will be ready. I don't know what else. We have to have the person come out to inspect it once it's, is refurbished. That's the only other delay.
Well, we can't really discuss that now. Sorry, this is only a future agenda items.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure as to the status of why and when we have to have it inspected.
Well, I think our general manager had some ideas about that, and he can relay that through email notification, and then agendize it for August.
Okay.
And I think has the gallstones, so hopefully he'll be fine by next month, and he will be here at our next meeting.
Yes, I hope so. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
I do have checks to be signed.